Have you ever looked at a bunch of grapes and thought, imagine having this growing right in my backyard and not paying for grapes again? I used to think grapes were difficult. I thought you needed huge land, perfect soil, and a fancy vineyard setup. Then I found out something strange. Grapes are one of the easiest plants to multiply. Once you understand how they behave, you can take a small piece of vine and turn it into an endless supply of grape plants. Today on SproutCycle Garden, I'm going to show you exactly how that works. We're talking varieties, setup, pruning, training, pest control, propagation, harvesting, all of it. And later in the video, I'll share a bonus trick that helps you multiply grapevines almost effortlessly every single year. Before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next garden lesson, and tap the like button so this video reaches more growers like you. And if you've got friends who love gardening, share this with them too. Let's grow together. Let's get into it. Before we plant anything, let's slow down and understand what grapes actually want. I know most people want to jump straight to planting, but this part right here, this is the foundation. When you understand how grapes think, everything else becomes easier. Your pruning makes sense, your harvest gets bigger, and you avoid mistakes that frustrate beginners for years. Grapes are long-lived plants. These vines behave more like small trees than seasonal crops. Once a grapevine settles into the soil, it can stay productive for decades. I'm talking 40, 50, even 60 years of steady fruit, all from a single plant that you take care of properly. Now here's the part that catches new growers off guard. Grapes only produce fruit on wood that grew last year. Not the thick old wood near the base, not the brand new shoots that pop up this spring, only the canes that developed last season are the ones that hold fruit this season. Once you understand that, pruning stops feeling like guesswork and starts feeling like strategy. Those new shoots you see growing right now are actually next year's fruit holders, so everything you do, every trim, every cut, is shaping future harvests. Grapes also love sunlight with their whole heart. They behave like plants that evolved on open hillsides where nothing shaded them. They want direct sun on their leaves for at least 6 to 8 hours every day. More sunlight means more photosynthesis, more energy, and bigger, sweeter clusters. When you place a grapevine somewhere shaded, it won't complain loudly, it'll just grow slower, produce fewer canes, and give you small, weak clusters. Good sun is non-negotiable. Let's talk about the soil for a moment. Grapes want soil that drains freely. Picture this. The roots should be able to stretch downward without sitting in waterlogged pockets. They don't like tight, heavy soil that traps water. They don't like swampy patches. They want a loose, well-drained environment where water goes in, does its job, and moves on. If your soil is too dense, grapes push back by struggling to establish deep roots. And deep roots matter because they help the plant survive dry seasons and support those heavy fruit clusters.
Another thing that surprises folks is how climate-sensitive grapes can be. Different grape types behave differently depending on where you live. Some love the cold and can handle freezing winters. Some shut down completely when temperatures drop. Some thrive in hot regions where humidity stays high. That's why grape growing success usually starts with choosing the right variety for your location. You can give a grapevine perfect soil, perfect sunlight, perfect fertilizer, but if the variety does not match your climate, you'll always be fighting disease pressure, low fruit set, or weak growth. So before you even dig a hole, think of grapes like long-term partners. They aren't complicated, but they want certain things: strong sunlight, comfortable soil, a climate they understand, and a grower who knows that this year's branch could be next year's harvest. Understanding this early gives you a huge advantage and sets you up for years of successful, trouble-free growing. Now let's talk about the 3 major groups of grapes, because this is where many gardeners make their first big mistake. They fall in love with the grape they saw at the store or in a video, and they buy it without checking whether it's built for their climate. Grapes aren't one size fits all. Each group comes with its own strengths, weaknesses, and personality. Once you know which group fits your weather, everything becomes smoother. Healthier vines, fewer problems, and a much bigger harvest. First, we have American grapes. These are the rugged survivors of the grape world. They evolved in colder climates, so they're naturally tough. They can take chilly winters, bouncing back even after temperatures dip farther than most other fruits can handle. Varieties like Concord, Catawba, and Niagara fall into this category. They're the grapes many of us grew up tasting in juice and jelly, the classic bold grape flavor you instantly recognize. If you live in a place with real winters, the kind that make you question your life choices, American grapes are your safest bet. They don't just survive the cold, they thrive in it. Next, we've got European grapes, also known as Vitis vinifera. These are your wine grapes, your fancy table grapes, the ones you see hanging in perfectly shaped clusters at the market. Thompson Seedless, Flame, Cabernet, those are European varieties. They want warmth, they want long summers, they want dry air. And when they get those conditions, they reward you with incredible sweetness, beautiful skins, and flavors perfect for fresh eating or winemaking. But here's the thing, they're sensitive. High humidity makes them uncomfortable. Cold winters stress them out. They don't like sudden weather changes. So if you're in a warm region with steady seasons, European grapes will grow beautifully for you. If not, they'll let you know quickly through disease and weak growth. And finally, we have muscadine grapes. These are the heat warriors. They come from the southeastern United States where summers are long, humid, and intense. Muscadines actually need that heavy warmth to reach their full potential. Varieties like Carlos, Noble, and Scuppernong can handle heat that would overwhelm most other grapes. Their vines grow aggressively, their fruit skins are thicker, and they're naturally resistant to many pests and diseases. If your summers feel like someone left the oven door open, muscadines are the perfect match. They'll outgrow almost everything else in your garden. So when you're choosing what to plant, don't just think about flavor or color. Think about climate first. Grapes that match your environment will grow faster, stay healthier, and produce far more fruit with far less work. This one decision, picking the right grape group for your region, sets the tone for your entire grape growing journey.
Now here's where growing grapes becomes exciting. Once you have one healthy grapevine, you're not just growing fruit anymore. You're growing future plants. A single vine can turn into 10, 20, even 30 new vines over time, all without buying anything else. Grapes respond incredibly well to propagation, and the method is simple enough for any beginner to master. The best time to take cuttings is during the dormant season, when the vine is resting. That's usually late fall through early spring, after the leaves have dropped but before new growth begins. During this period, the canes are firm, full of stored energy, and ready to form roots. You want canes from last year's growth, nothing too old or too thin. Think pencil thickness. Smooth bark, healthy color. Cut a piece about 12 to 18 inches long with 3 to 4 nodes on it. Each of those nodes has the potential to become a new shoot or a new root. Make the bottom cut slanted, just beneath a node. Make the top cut straight, about an inch above a node. The slanted cut is your reminder of which end goes into the soil, because once you have a bundle of cuttings, they all start to look the same. From here, you've got 2 easy rooting methods. First, you can plant the cuttings directly outdoors in early spring. Leave the top buds sticking above the soil line and bury the rest. Keep the area moist but never soggy. By summer, you'll see new leaves pushing through, and by fall, those cuttings will have developed strong young roots. Second, you can start the cutting indoors. Use tall containers or recycled jugs filled with a loose mix that drains well. Bury 2 nodes below the soil and leave 1 or 2 above. Place them in a warm, bright spot, mist them occasionally, and let the roots develop at their own pace. If you want faster results, place the pots on a seed-starting heat mat. Grapes love warm soil. It encourages root growth while the cooler air keeps top growth steady. Give it 6 to 8 weeks. You'll start seeing new leaves and gentle resistance when you tug the cutting, which means roots have formed. At that point, harden them off slowly outdoors and prepare to plant them in their permanent spot. And just like that, you've turned one vine into many. Growing grapes becomes a cycle. Cut, root, plant, repeat. And before you know it, you'll have vines to give away, vines to plant, and vines that just keep multiplying year after year. Now let's talk about planting your grapes in their forever home. This part sets the tone for the entire life of the vine, so a few smart choices here will save you a lot of trouble later. Grapes crave sunlight. It's their fuel. When you're choosing a spot, think of the brightest, most open part of your garden. Avoid narrow corners, shaded walls, or places where air gets trapped. Grapes want space for breeze to move through the leaves. Good airflow helps prevent fungal issues and keeps the plant healthy during.
The soil doesn't have to be perfect. Grapes are surprisingly adaptable, but they do insist on good drainage. If your soil holds water or feels sticky like clay, raise the planting area or mix in compost to loosen it up. The goal is simple. Water should go down, not sit around the roots. When you're ready to plant, dig a hole roughly a foot deep and a foot wide. Set the plant in the center and gently spread the roots so they're not bunched up. If you're planting rooted cuttings, place them at the same depth they were growing in their pot. Too deep or too shallow can stress the young vine. Spacing is important. Leave 6 to 10 feet between plants. I know that sounds like a lot when the vine is small, but grapes grow fast and they stretch far. That open space gives them room to develop strong trunks and long, productive canes. After planting, water deeply so the soil settles around the roots. Then add a layer of mulch, wood chips, straw, anything that keeps moisture steady and weeds down. Just keep the mulch a few inches away from the base of the vine so the trunk stays dry. And here's a little tip that feels painful the first time you do it. Remove any flowers in the first year. I know it's tempting to let the vine fruit right away, but letting it focus on root development makes a huge difference long term. A strong root system now means heavier clusters and healthier growth for many seasons ahead. Grapes are natural climbers, and if you leave them alone, they'll twist and turn in every direction, creating a beautiful but tangled jungle. Training gives the vine purpose. It tells the plant where to grow, where to focus its energy, and ultimately where to produce fruit. A well-trained grapevine is easier to prune, easier to harvest, and far more productive. There are many training styles out there, but let me give you the two simplest and most beginner-friendly systems. The first is the 2-wire trellis system. Think of it as a clean, controlled way to guide your vine. You place one wire at about waist height and another at shoulder height. When you plant your grape, pick one strong shoot and let it grow straight up like a little soldier. Once it hits the top wire, that's when you pinch the tip and allow it to split into 2 arms, one going left, one going right. Later, you'll develop another pair of arms on the lower wire. This setup gives you a tidy structure that's easy to prune and perfect for consistent harvests year after year. The second option is the arbor, or pergola. This one brings beauty and shade into your garden. You guide the trunk upward until it reaches the top of the structure, then train it to spread across the beams. Over time, cordons, your permanent branches, line the overhead space. In summer, grape clusters hang down like ornaments, and the leaves create a natural canopy. It's both practical and stunning, especially for table grape varieties. No matter which system you choose, the first 2 years are not about fruit. They're about shaping the vine. Think of these early years as building the skeleton. Once the structure is set, the plant naturally shifts into fruit production mode. That's when you start seeing those heavy clusters and realize the slow, steady training was worth every bit of patience.
Once your grapevines settle in and start growing, their daily care is actually quite simple. Mature grapes don't need constant watering. Their roots travel deep into the soil, hunting for moisture on their own. In most climates, a deep soak about once a week during dry spells is more than enough. What you want is slow, steady moisture that encourages the roots to grow downward, not frequent shallow watering that keeps them near the surface. When it comes to feeding grapes, less is always more. These plants are not heavy feeders, and if you give them too much nitrogen, they'll respond with a jungle of leaves and almost no fruit. Aim for a gentle approach. A layer of compost around the base in early spring or a light application of a balanced fertilizer is usually all they need for the entire season. care also includes keeping the plant tidy. Grapes love producing little side shoots and suckers at the base. These don't help the plant and only steal energy from the main trunk, so snip them off whenever you see them. As the vine grows, thin out any tangled or overcrowded shoots. Think of it as giving the plant breathing room. The more space, air, and sunlight have to move through the canopy, the healthier your vine stays, and the sweeter your grapes become. With good watering habits, light feeding, and simple maintenance, your vine will stay strong, clean, and ready to put its energy where it matters, into growing better fruit each year. Now, pruning. This is the point where most new growers freeze up, but once you understand how grapes behave, it becomes one of the most important and satisfying parts of the whole process. Grapes produce fruit only on the new canes that grow each season, which means you must clear out the old growth to make space for fresh, productive canes. That's why a proper winter pruning removes nearly 80% of what grew the year before. It sounds extreme, but this is exactly what the vine needs to stay productive. Late winter is the perfect moment to prune. The vine is still dormant, the sap hasn't started rising yet, and you can clearly see the structure without leaves getting in the way. Start by looking over the entire plant. Identify the strong, healthy canes that grew last season. These are your potential fruiting canes, the ones that will carry your grape clusters in the coming summer. Choose only the best, usually 1 or 2 per arm of your training system, and gently tie them into place if needed. Everything else gets cut back to short stubs called spurs. Each spur should have 2 to 3 buds on it. Those buds will grow into next year's fruiting canes, keeping the cycle going. It might feel harsh to cut away so much growth, but pruning gives the vine direction and purpose. Without it, the plant will spend all its energy spreading everywhere while producing very little fruit. Once you do it a few times, you'll realize pruning isn't about taking away. It's about shaping the vine so it can give you the best harvest possible. Even with the best care, grapes will throw a few challenges your way. The good news is, most problems have simple, reliable fixes once you know what you're looking at. One of the most common issues is powdery mildew. You'll recognize it immediately as a white, dusty coating on the leaves and sometimes the fruit. It happens when the air around the plant stays too still or too damp. The solution is straightforward. Open up the canopy by removing crowded shoots so air can move through the vine, and treat the plant with a sulfur spray or a gentle baking soda solution. Once airflow improves, powdery mildew Next is black rot, which shows up as small brown spots on leaves that eventually turn into shriveled, mummified grapes. This disease overwinters on old plant material, so cleanliness is everything. Remove any infected leaves and fruit right away, and never compost them. A copper spray early in the season, around the time new shoots are 6 inches long, goes a long way in preventing black rot from taking hold. You'll also have to deal with birds, because once grapes start to ripen, every bird in your neighborhood will act like your garden is an all-you-can-eat buffet. The only real protection is netting. It's not the most fun to put up, but it works. Cover the vine a couple of weeks before the grapes reach peak color, and secure the bottom so birds don't sneak underneath. Another issue is poor fruit set, where the vine flowers, but the grapes never fully develop. Most of the time this comes from overfeeding, especially too much nitrogen, or not pruning enough. Grapes need balance. Light feeding, good pruning, and plenty of sunlight usually bring fruit back to normal. Handle these few problems early, and your vines will reward you with healthy growth and consistent harvests year after year. Harvesting grapes is one of the most rewarding moments in the whole process. But it's also where many gardeners get fooled. Grapes change color long before they're actually ready to eat, so you can't rely on appearance alone. The only true test is taste. Pick a grape from the bottom of the cluster. Those ripen last. If it's sweet, full-flavored, and no longer tart, then the whole cluster is ready. When it's time to harvest, use clean, sharp shears to cut the entire cluster from the vine. Avoid pulling the grapes by hand, because that can damage the fruit and the plant.
Harvesting in the morning, once the dew is dried, gives you grapes that are cool, firm, and at their peak freshness. Once you start picking, you'll be amazed at how much a mature vine can produce. A healthy, well-trained plant can easily give you 15 to 20 pounds of grapes each season, sometimes even more. It's a generous harvest, and it all comes from the care you put into the vine throughout the year. Now here's the bonus tip, the part I always look forward to, because this is where your grape growing journey becomes truly unlimited. Every winter, when you're pruning your vines, you're actually holding a pile of future grape plants in your hands. Instead of tossing those pruned canes away, select the strongest, healthiest ones and turn them into next year's vineyard. Pick canes that are firm, smooth, and about the thickness of a pencil. Bundle 10 or 15 together with a rubber band, label them so you don't forget the variety, and store them in slightly damp sand or sawdust. Keep the bundle in a cool area, cold enough to keep them dormant, but not so cold that they freeze. This little resting period encourages the cut ends to form calluses, which is the plant's natural way of preparing to grow roots. By early spring, when you take those cuttings out, you'll often see the first signs of callusing already forming. At that point, they're primed for success. Plant them in pots or directly in the ground, and watch how quickly they root and take off. With this simple habit, you'll never need to buy grape plants again. You can expand your own garden, build an entire row of vines, or share the extras with friends and neighbors. It's one of the easiest ways to turn one healthy vine into many year after year. So that's the complete guide to growing an endless supply of grapes. You're not just planting vines, you're planting a legacy. One healthy grapevine can live longer than most garden plants in your yard. If this video helped you, hit subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss the next lesson here at SproutCycle Garden. Tell me in the comments, which grape variety are you thinking of growing first? I read every comment, and I love hearing your stories. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.